Alright guys, what's up cyberpunks and retro nerds? Welcome back to another episode of Neon Trash. Johnny Rocket here with Tommy the Hammer, BC, aka Christian Bale. And we're going to be drinking some beer, of course. And lo and behold, another Rhinegeist. And it's finally September, so Tom has let me finally bring over an Oktoberfest. Franz is Oktoberfest in Rhinegeist land, so what the hell? Without further ado, let's pass these around.
Oh, Dankeschön.
Yes,
yes. Rhinegeist. One of my favorite beers ever.
I mean, with the most Deutschest sounding name, you really hope that they're going to bring it with an Oktoberfest here.
Yeah.
It's pretty chill, so I'm not getting much of a note right off the top here.
Me neither. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, them beers.
Okay, right, yeah, this is like ice cold because my little cooler is badass.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to get a flavor. I'm starting to get a little bit of a malt and a hop there finally.
It's very subdued, I'd say. This is easy drinking.
As far as Oktoberfest go, yeah, it really is. That's pretty, 5.4%, so that's in the lighter things. You would usually Oktoberfest I would think they're like 6.5, so this is kind of on the light side for Oktoberfest. Want something really rich and hearty to celebrate the bounty of everything, so we're gonna put all the hops and all the malts into this, and really make yourself a full-bodied ale. But Rhinegeist decided to flip the script on this one here and kind of bring you those kind of flavors, but in a more subtle version, honestly. This is more like a full-bodied lager to me than an actual like Oktoberfest ale.
I feel like this is super palatable, and I would like to drink this all day. So in terms of a celebratory beer of the time, I feel like it's appropriate.
Yeah, I feel like this is the perfect beer for tonight. Let's do a star count. What do you think?
Okay, let me kick the star count off here. I think this is a fairly decent beer. I'll give this a 7.5. Solid 7.5 out of 10.
I'm going 8.5.
Oh, shit!
Ooh.
That is high as fuck.
Sounds like this is in your wheelhouse.
It's in my wheelhouse.
God damn! All right, BC dialing it up to fucking 8.5. I like it. This is a good beer. I could drink this pretty much all night. I'm gonna have to go with, I wouldn't say it's like an 8.5. I'd say it's like a 7, a clean 7. I'm going with a clean 7.
Clean 7.
Yeah.
There you go, folks. There's our review. Rhinegeist Franz Oktoberfest. Chuggable if it wasn't exactly 0 degrees Celsius.
Woo. Oh yeah!
Being my pick here, I decided, I don't know, we're gonna get a little bit more serious here with a classic. I went with Boyz in the Hood from this double feature that I happened to find at the local exchange, and I haven't seen it in like 20 years.
Now's the
Sorry,
time.
now it's my turn.
Now's the time to see Boyz.
Yeah, no, seriously, I haven't seen this in forever, and I think we should really revisit this, and we'll see, I don't know, what actors may pop up that we missed over the years. Like, I'm looking forward to this. Like, this was a very highly acclaimed film, and I bet you this stands the test of time.
Excellent selection. Without further ado, you guys know how this part works. I dig up the trailer.
Beep that shit!
We'll be right back, motherfuckers. Bye!
Boyz in the Hood, the summer's hottest movie and this year's freshest soundtrack. Featuring music by Tevin Campbell, Yo-Yo, Ice Cube, Tony, Compton's Most Wanted, 2 Live Crew, Stanley Clark, and Quincy Jones. Cool. Don't miss Ice Cube as Doughboy and Larry Fishburne as Furious in the movie that has everybody jamming. Boyz in the Hood. Rated R. At theaters now.
So we just got done watching Boyz in the Hood. And, man, I remember this, of course, I've seen it before, but it's been just long enough that, I knew what was going to happen, but that doesn't stop it from being any less powerful and emotional than it was the first time I saw. Man, I was almost complaining as we were watching it that it seemed so heavy-handed in spots, but it really needed to be to end the way it does and just to make you feel the emotions you feel. It really has to set it up the way it does. And man, what an incredible piece of film. Like, this is so powerful. This is almost 30 years old, and still some of the messages ring just as true. Like, so much, unfortunately, so much hasn't changed. Like, it's sad that this could be so relevant to today's society, honestly. And I mean, wow, man, what a piece of cinema. I don't know. I'm almost at a loss for words watching this again. Like, I knew, like, it was such a simple thing, right? I caught a coworker of mine, Rashad, was wearing this shirt, you know, Boyz in the Hood t-shirt, and I was like, damn, man, that was a good fucking movie. He's like, hell yeah, it was. You know, like there's, I mean, so much hope and hopelessness, you know, all rolled into one, and you know, the conveyance of just a war happening, and, you know, like, exactly who's on what side of what war. Like, think about this here. Like, they never really explicitly say who the enemy is. Like, you kind of get, like, there's a war going on. Like, you got, you know, his father was in Vietnam. You get certain flashbacks. You get the constant helicopters flying overhead, the constant gunshots you hear throughout the movie. Like, there's a war happening here. Obviously, they're on one side, but who they're fighting against is kind of veiled. Like, it's really up to you to figure it out. Like, they don't want to club you over the head with that and blame anybody else. They're like letting you figure out who's on the other side here. Who wants to do this to this community? Who wants them killing each other? Who wants them to, you know, leave their neighborhoods? You know, who's trying to gentrify them? It really lets you figure that out. And honestly, you know, it's not Euclidean geometry here. And see it for what it is and realize this is exactly what the fuck they were going through in the 80s and 90s, and still today even. Like, this shit is still happening. You know, and this may be a super deep dive, but this is an incredibly deep subject, and it is thoroughly relevant today. And I think this is exactly the kind of movie we need to be watching and talking about right now. You know, like, we actually want to try to fix some shit and try to use the system we've established to fix something. Wake the fuck up, people. Wake the fuck up and realize this is a fucking not a race war. This is a class war. This is rich versus poor, and there's a very few rich people that convinced a very lot of poor people to think that they are just temporarily embarrassed millionaires, and they're gonna get right back on top real quick here. Hold on, just give them a second, right?
Well, that exact point was brought up by one of the most, like, respected professors in Pan-African studies at Kent, Professor Okanta. He brought up, like, white supremacy in some ways is just as bad for white people, you know, poor white people.
It is.
Because they're in the same exact conditions, but believe that somehow they're not, just based off of their skin. At least the black people know that they're getting fucked over.
But that's the problem with MAGA.
Right.
That's the problem with Donald Trump and this dupe that he's doing. They're rubes. I mean, this movie has stoked some flames.
It really has. Like, it has kind of reignited that passion I had. You know, when I first saw this when I was much younger, I was like, wow. You know, I got away with some dumb shit when I was a kid, probably because I was white and I didn't even realize it. You know, like, if I think back to some of the dumb shit I did and got caught doing, like, you know, there's a very good chance I would just be dead. Like, you know, I'm not gonna go into super huge detail, but, like, I've had police drawn guns on me before.
Me too.
You know, and I'm probably alive because I was white. You know, I wouldn't doubt for a second if we had done the dumb shit we were doing and I had been African American, they just, you know, would have, you know. I mean, you see it even now, you know. You know, and if everybody could just realize that and wake up, that sleeping giant would really awake, and it would be all colors, you know, and we could take that back, you know. But I'm so afraid that they've done such a good job of dividing everybody on every single issue there is to be divided on. We've been trained from day one to take sides. You know, whether it's something as innocent as sports, you know, to something as ridiculously awful as race or religion. You know, like we've been parsed down into these tiny subsects and then, you know, just been forced to almost isolate. You know, we're really losing that touch. And it's so ironic that in today's age where we have more communication with our fellow men than we've ever had, we have the ability to share all these things instantly on so many platforms and to actually talk to people, that we are more isolated than ever. You know, they really use that fear tactic that we should be afraid of anything different. Like, you know, when you know something that's right, you should just, you know, reject everything else and not, you know, listen to any kind of discourse about anything, you know, and just drown it all out and stay in your hole, you know. Man, I could wax on this all night. You know, this is really, you know, I mean, of all the films I brought over here.
So can I just say that? I'm gonna interject here. Real quick.
Interject, please.
Boyz in the Hood seems to have drawn out a larger, deeper dive with Johnny Rocket here, and I gotta say I understand why. I feel like with a movie as prominent as this, Boyz in the Hood is one of those movies that is signature of its era. I remember when this movie came out. I remember how much it affected people. And I remember there was like a lot of, you know, Caucasian white people that were watching this movie that had no idea anything about African American culture here in the States. They were fascinated by it. They were drawn to it. This movie opened their eyes to, you know, something that was happening here in America that wasn't being publicized by the news. I was doing the same stupid shit as a white kid, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't given, yeah, I had white privilege, but at the same time I was reverse mohawks, I was painted fingernails, I was makeup, you know, I was Marilyn Manson, I was
counterculture.
I was doing, you know, drugs in the fucking graveyard. I was insane. You know what I'm saying? I understand that angst. You see, we've been talking the most here. I feel like we're two speakers, two stereo speakers.
Had a moment or two.
We've been like, yeah. Like,
I mean,
see, come on, you gotta.
These black people don't want to be killing each other, and that there's a lot of other circumstances and things going on that are leading them to kill each other. And ultimately, you know, I feel like a lot of people, you know, if they've seen it before, think of the line Ricky, and like Ricky's the guy that's gonna make it out the hood, and then you have Cuba Gooding Jr. with like his breakthrough performance. But I actually feel like Ice Cube's character is the most nuanced. I feel like, you know, he is the guy that has the persona of someone that lives in the hood and that, you know, might not be ever getting out of the hood. But you can tell by his small interactions with his mother, with his fights with his brother Ricky, like he doesn't like where he's at, and ultimately when he commits, you know, these acts, whether it's out of revenge or, you know, loyalty to his friends and his family, you know, he leaves with the message of, I don't even know if I feel better. You know, that was what he left with. So he's not happy that he got revenge. He's not happy that he's caught up in this system. And he wants out just as much as the next person. And I feel like, you know, that's what the people that think like, oh, black on black crime is the real issue, like they need to realize that there's a lot of other circumstances and things that white people, especially rich white people, you know, have put into place that make black on black crime even more prevalent. You know, the movie, Lawrence Fishburne is great in this movie. He has a whole speech about like, why are all the liquor stores here? You know, why is there a gun store over here? Or, you know, nowadays a lot of research has been done on food deserts. Like people can't get access to good food in these areas, these low income areas, and then they die young from health issues. All these things. And he was like, we're not the ones doing this to ourselves. Drugs aren't being flown in or sailed in by us.
It's the system.
Right, and I realized that this could be uncomfortable for you know, especially maybe people that align with conservative views to watch, but I actually feel like if you sit down and take the time, like you guys pointed out, like these characters are relatable. They have cookouts. They're listening to music with their friends. They like sports. They're having relationship struggles. They're having, you know, when they're coming of age, there's this like, you know, tug of war with your parents. Like, that's stuff that everyone goes through.
Yes.
Every single person.
Exactly.
And, you know, I feel like if you can actually just look at that alone, you could be like, wow, these people really aren't that different than me. Upon first watch, you know, you might identify with Cuba Gooding Jr. or Ricky Moore, especially if you're a white person, but I feel like Ice Cube's character actually has a lot of depth and is arguably the most nuanced. And his final scene with Cuba Gooding Jr. at the end, I think, is the most impactful.
It's like haunting.
I love everything about this movie, and yeah, I think it's, you know, almost 30 years later, all of the big issues that are being touched on in this movie, whether it's, you know, drugs, gun violence, police brutality, all of these things are in this movie, and they're still happening today, and there's protests happening right now throughout this whole entire country because of these same exact problems.
Yes.
So I think this is an incredibly important film in American culture, and yeah, I have nothing but good things to say about it.
You know, I gotta concur. I think we're gonna go on to star counts now. We have taken that ever-fabled deep dive, as we do on this channel, and rightfully so, because
This is really warranted for this
It
kind
really
of
is.
film, for the subject matter.
I feel that both of your points of view on this movie. I feel like this is definitely something that takes a little bit longer to contemplate than just a couple of fucking minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's true.
Boys in the Hood, pop culturally speaking, to me, I think is a very significant movie. I remember when it came out, like I was saying earlier, and I remember what it did to the masses, you know, in terms of a movie. I remember people were talking about it, you know, for weeks, for months, you know what I'm saying? And it went on. This is the type of movie that you would see continually throughout the decades on TV and people's personal collections. And yeah, there might be some kind of hokier moments here or there. I feel like the actors are top notch. I feel like the music blows it out of the park. And I feel like the cinematography is about as good as anything was during the 1990s. So I feel like this movie doesn't do anything to really make you go, you know what, that's a bad movie. Because this is not a bad movie. I feel like this is a really good movie. All these movies that were made in the 90s that were addressing issues about social and political and economic injustices. You know,
This is definitely a good place to start.
but
though.
yeah, this is definitely numero uno in those regards. I don't want to take a deep dive in that direction. So in Tom's opinione, Boys in the Hood gets a solid 8.5 out of 10. Do it, BC.
If there was like a Mount Rushmore for like coming of age African American movies, I think this goes on it. I mean, there's like Do the Right Thing,
Definitely.
Menace to Society. You got movies like Juice. Lots of good stuff. And honestly, like for me, I feel like all of the actors are great in this. I actually feel like all of the supporting cast, you know, are great too. Even just the friends.
Yes, everybody.
The
really
girlfriends,
nailed
the
this.
parents,
Yeah.
like everybody. You feel
It
like
felt
you're there
so
with them.
real. Like they were so. Nothing was jarring at all. Like that's just how people were. It
Wasn't phoned
really,
in.
It lets you, it let you settle in to the movie and just really be immersed by it. It was really just, yeah.
Right.
So good. So good.
I have to say, like I've said this before, I feel like, you know, we do ratings out of 10, and I almost feel like there needs to be like an 11th rating that's just like classic. And I feel like this is a classic. I feel like it's important to American culture, like objectively, and that alone, you know, for me, I think this is a 10 out of 10 movie.
Like, I mean, I could, if I really wanted to nitpick, I could find some faults in maybe some of the script or some of the choices and cinematography partway through it. It did kind of, you know, get a little muddy. But I can see it was kind of an artistic choice, you know, so I can give the director, okay, they wanted, you know, this to be a little bit more artistic than straightforward, you know, Saturday afternoon special, kind of a, you know, straight narrative, you know, so I really can't fault him for that. You know, I'll give this a solid 9.5 out of 10.